Hello, my name is Roy Poyan, and I'm the Director of Families Impacted by Opioids. I want to thank you for joining us for this next episode of Fentanyl and Families in Harm's Way. We want to take a look today at the topic of a center, a learning center. Wouldn't it be great if every county had a learning center that a family could go to and actually sit down and receive education and materials right there in their county, come back each week and be able to grow in their knowledge and support? Not a support group, although it would be, but more of an education learning resource center. Well, we've set one up for you. And actually, we've set it up in a way that you can do exactly this. You can have a center in your county. We'll give you all the materials you need. We've got a user manual. We have an instructor certification manual. We will meet with you by Zoom, or if you're in Ohio, in person. And we can then kind of tandem with you your own design, and we'll provide you for the content at no cost all of the 32 learning seminar material, so that you can do exactly what we did in these TV episodes, only you can do it live in person with all the materials and the PowerPoint and everything you need. We want the families throughout the counties of the United States to be able to access learning readily available, and it's designed exactly for the purpose of the family to know what's likely to happen next and how do we prepare for it, and when we do this, what should we expect as an outcome. And all of this, as you see from these episodes, are materials that you can learn. You'll be using the Family Solution Finder Learning Series, and that's the 32 with the 4-part module for each issue. Study guide, workbook, coping skills, and connecting to a local resource for each issue, just as we've done here in this TV series. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, we'd be happy to sit down and talk with you about it. There's a $350 charge for the actual center, but you know, we can talk to you about that too. All the materials to do this are free, and actually you could probably set up the center because it's accessible and you don't really need us. If this is something that you feel you can do, then just take the material and go set up your center the way you want it. What's important to us is that the families receive the right type of information that empowers them to deal with the issues they are likely to face, because we know what they're going to face and we know how they can get ready for it, or at least start. And you can now be a part of that because we've designed a Family Solution Finder Learning Center title for you to be able to take hold of and put into play in your community. 440-385-7605, just a reminder, is our phone number. Let's go to the family table and we'll take a look at what this Family Learning Center material is that's available for you and can then be used by you. So thank you for joining us at the family table again. In this review, we're going to take a look at the possibility your community, your county, does not have a resource center for families to physically go to and learn about their journey with substance use disorders. Here's the good news. We can provide that for you. We can provide for you everything that you would need to help the family in their journey, to help the different stakeholders in your community, to include your court system, your legal system, your pastors, every aspect that the family will go and receive care in their life journey. Those groups can now be more learned about what the family is experiencing and more helpful by providing them with the same resource that guides them back to your local learning center. We're going to call the Learning Center a Family Solution Finder Learning Center. It's a family solution finder because you recall the 3 coping skills: determine a solution, develop a decision, and design a plan of action. Inside the 3D coping skills is really the meat
of what a family will do. It's their true empowerment. The education that you'll be providing through these resources allows them to grow, but the application of that knowledge is where they'll start to receive empowerment. It doesn't really become empowering until they include the community that they live in. So doesn't it make sense that we would have a learning center, a solution finder learning center for them to use? Now, we're going to provide you all the content that you need in order to provide a learning center at your location. That's the great news. Literally within 30 days, you can be up and running a local family solution finder learning center. And if you want to call it after the name of somebody that might have overdosed or after the name of honoring somebody's name, you can put that into the title of your Family Solution Finder Learning Center. The Megan Daltrey Family Solution Finder Learning Center, of Sarasota County. So these are all malleable for you in terms of identifying your location. Let's talk about the concept. We have a booklet here for you that takes you through the thoughts that you would want to consider when looking at the possibility of providing your local community with a learning center and what all that would entail. But I'm going to kind of go through it with you right now, briefly. And then you could take a look at it on our website to see more about what specifically are we looking at when we're looking at the Learning Center and this specific program that the Learning Center would provide locally. So as we start to look at these, and all of these are available on our website. So each of these books that we're going to go through is a PDF on our website that you can download, or if you'd rather have a physical copy, you can order them through Amazon.com. If this is confusing for you, don't worry about that. Give us a call and we'll walk you through it. The content itself is free of cost. Now, when we start to look at a learning center, the first thought that I would think is, how is it structured? What do I need to know? Do you have a user manual, Roy, that we can use to help us to set this up? And the answer is yes, we do. I wouldn't ask a question that I didn't have an answer to. And what you have here is the organization, how it's organized. It also provides how you would train each person in the organization, what their roles and responsibilities would be. It gives you structure, it gives you process, and it gives you implementation for a Family Solution Finder Learning Center. And that's provided here. Well, then the next question that I would ask is, well, how do I get my instructor up to par? So as we offer these different programs that we will be speaking about here today, how is that person going to be competent and confident to do what we're asking them to do? Well, we have an instructor certification program for the person that will be your instructor. Now, it may be that this instructor changes over time. I mean, people move on and maybe they move up inside the organization or they move on in their career and a new person takes their role. So what we would do with you is we would provide an hour-long presentation of the certification program. They would have this book, either downloaded or physical copy, with them, and they would learn exactly how to set up the room, how to use the PowerPoint presentations that we provide, use the handouts, kind of how to do group discussions at the meeting. Also, how to go outside of the facility of the Learning Center and into the community where you can have an impact, and we'll describe that in just a minute, the different manuals and books and materials that are available to get your community engaged. So now what we've discussed is we've got a way for you to kind of go through the idea of, we think we're interested, but we need to learn more, which is very reasonable, to the idea of we need to know how this would be structured and what processes we would use inside that structure, to we need to have an understanding of how we would instruct those that attend our seminars, either online or in person. Now, when we start to look at what the content is, we've kind of gone through this in our 32 episodes. You've been kind enough to view all these. Cumulatively, this is what this entails. What we gave to you in these 32 is titled the Family Solution Finder Learning Series. It's 32 seminars. And you may recall us addressing the study guide, okay, has the 32, one for each issue. And then we discussed the workbook, which allows us to take what's learned and then put it into our practical real life situation. And then we've reviewed the 3D coping skills, which takes the issue and allows us to determine a solution, develop a decision, and design a plan of action. And then in its finality, which is really important, we've gone out into the community in advance and we found those providers locally that will be able to provide us with services that support the issue, that support how it affects our lives, that support how we determine a solution, develop a decision, and design a plan of action. These are 4 learning modules, and in each of these episodes of Fentanyl and Families in Harm's Way, we've kind of outlined those in these series. Now, the family knows what's going on at this point, but they're not an island, and they need a community that understands them. How are we ever going to get a community to understand all that we've just understood about our loved one who's experiencing substance use disorder? Well, the answer is we've got to go out and we've got to teach them. And it's not a matter of we'll give them a brochure and send them off to an acute care setting, for an episodic treatment of so many weeks, and then they're back out into their life again. That's not as good as we have a community that understands these issues. And then the question is, well, we're asking the community to understand things like enabling and boundary setting and the stages of relapse and why it's a brain disease. The answer is yes, we do. We want them to know these things. When I was developing a network of hospitals internationally, I was in Costa Rica, and I had asked a doctor there that we were bringing into the network, how did the Costa Ricans stay out of the El Salvadorian wars, guerrilla wars? And he said, well, we had a choice back then. We could educate our population in the villages, or we could stand up an army. And we decided to educate our families, because ignorance is how that type of communism grows fastest. And we fought it with knowledge. Well, that means that they got the whole community to understand this. We're at war. There's no question about it. This epidemic is a sort of war. And we all need to be engaged. And it's going to be difficult for us to be engaged if only the families have an understanding. But when you think about it, if somebody's working at the Department of Waterworks, or somebody's working as an employer, they have a family too. And who's to say their family isn't in harm's way? I can assure you, if they have a family in America, they're in harm's way. And they would benefit also from doing this. So we're not necessarily wasting their time or giving them information that they don't need to know. All of us need to know this information. The question is how to collaboratively get that to a posture of raising the knowledge level. Well, how they do it in Costa Rica in the villages. They went out and they educated everybody, to include the families, because the people that were working are also from families. So let's take a look at the pastor. The pastor is somebody that we go to in faith and in our understanding of our faith and our spiritual journey. We also look to them for understandings of what's happening in our life. The pastor has an opportunity to take this book, which is 12 seminars pulled out of the 32, and he can give them this book. Now, he also has an option to sit there and say, here's a treatment center, and why don't you give them a call? He can, at the same time, say, and here's a book. This is a chronic disease, and you need to start to get smart. It's not going to go away. It's going to be with your family for the rest of your life. And the sooner you know more about it, the better off you'll be. And he can hand them this book. The book is titled From Pastor to Family Table. The church now has a play in this education process of our community, both within the church, because he can give this to his congregation and to the stewards and lay people and deacon within their church, so they have an understanding. You see, this knowledge it's like spores, it starts to span out. When you have a vehicle that kind of encapsulates and says, here, use this at the moment that it's most appropriate. So that's a stakeholder in our community. Here's another stakeholder, the coach. Quick example of that. A student player at a high school game is in the locker room, the team is left, she's crying, and the coach comes in and says, what's the matter? And she says, my family is dealing with heroin, and they've been arguing for weeks now. I'm up to 5 in the morning, I failed my history test. My life is an absolute mess, coach. Well, what have we given the coach in order to respond as our society? We need to strengthen our coaches. We love our coaches, and our coaches love us, and they want to do what's best for us, always. So with that in mind, let's give a coach this book, and let's let them say at that moment, I got a book underneath my desk. Actually, he's probably got 3 copies. And he pulls it out and he says, listen, this is a chronic disease, and you're going to need to know more about what it's doing to your family. Take this home and start studying. Go ahead and get in touch with our local Family Solution Finder Learning Center, and they'll tell you more about this and how to incorporate your learning. But the coach is now a participant. He's a stakeholder in this drug war, from coach to family table. This would be very helpful from Little League all the way through college sports. Let's talk about the social worker in our community. Well, we're in the emergency room, the social worker comes out and it's an overdose, and they say, well, listen, you got some choices here, and we're going to start him on medical assisted treatment, and we want to get him over to detox, and then he'll start probably a residential or an IOP program. And this is all good information. It's acute care system information, which is great because it's the next step. But this is a chronic disease. And chronic diseases requires that everybody gets on board if they're available to do so. The only way they're going to be available to do so is if they know what's happening and what their role is. For this social worker, she can give them not just local brochures of local treatment centers, but she can also say, or he, you need to start to get smart on this. This is a lifelong journey. And what we want to do is we want the social worker to hand them with the other materials this book and suggest, take this home. It's 12 seminars of things you need to know. And by the way, go ahead and get in touch with your local Family Solution Finder Learning Center, and they'll help you to guide you through. You see, now all of a sudden we have a stakeholder, another stakeholder in our community that more than likely will run into this. The employer, we do see this in the employment, not just of the one that's abusing the substances, but the family members that are impacted. Let's say the mother's not performing well at work, and her manager says, listen, Jacqueline, you're coming in late and your work performance is down. What's going on? And she basically says, well, you know, Donna, I just didn't want to tell you, but I have a son and he's addicted to heroin, and it's just destroying my family. It's destroying my life. The employer can reach out of her, from under her desk and say, listen, this is NIH, SAMHSA information on what you need to know. There's 12 seminars in here, and you can start to learn as a family some of the areas that may be occurring that will help to strengthen your family. It's a chronic disease. Even after you go through treatment center, it's not going away. You'll be living the rest of your lives with this chronic disease. So it makes perfect sense for you to, Jacqueline, take the time now to start to learn. Let me give you this, and let me give you some brochures of local treatment centers. You need to get ready, get in touch with them, and ask them what to do in order to help you get your loved one into the right level of care. Once again, your local Family Solution Finder Learning Center here at the county level can help you. Now, county level, I mean geographically, not that it's a county agency. So with that in mind, there's counselors, there's guidance counselors, there's life coaches, there's all kinds of counselors out there. They can have this book also. It's from counselor to family table. So now they are personally in ownership of this information that science has said, you know, families need to know this, the community needs to know this, everybody needs to know this. Because let's face it, a community is just a gathering of a bunch of families. That's when you have a community. So we're all families when you get down to the actual, you know, fact of it, which means we're all in harm's way, which means we all need to get educated. So when the counselor suggests that they start to learn, then they are also going to recommend the local Family Solution Finder Learning Center. Well, the question might be, well, how would they know that we're there? Well, you're the ones that met with them to give them these books out of your program called the Pathfinder Community Collaboration. It's one of the programs in here. All of this is from you. So the legal court systems, as well as incarceration, the jail systems and prison, while these people are going through this experience, they can start to get educated. The courts can sit there and say, I've got the family members here in the gallery watching their loved one go through drug court. Hey, you all come on down. We've got a program for you. And what I'm going to do now is this is how that can be given. Or when they show up at jail and they're showing up for visitations, the social worker would say, hey, I see that you're coming here a lot. You know, your loved one's going to be discharged in about a year. You can spend that year learning about their reentry and start to make changes in your life. It's a chronic disease. It's not going to go away. And the more you know about it, the better you'll be. Let me give you this book, and let me also direct you to your local Family Solution Finder Learning Center so that you can start to gain knowledge about what it is that you're going to be dealing with. This is in its entirety the Pathfinder Community Collaborative, and it allows the Learning Center to reach out into the community. But we also want to isolate some very specific areas. Number one, you can offer a court program where the court mandates that the families take learning. And this book here, as well as what we just showed you here, which is the 12 learning seminars, this book here shows you how to introduce a program to the court system. There's 3 options for the courts to choose from. One is that you would do it online, and the other is that they would do it themselves and then just report in their progress, kind of like a proctoring or monitoring of sort. And that's called the Specialty Courts Family Learning Program. And it allows you to address just the courts as a model itself from your Family Solution Finder Learning Center. Now, if somebody comes to you or somebody desires to say, I don't need you all to learn this. If it's available on the internet, just show me how to use it. That's considered the Family Solution Finder on-demand curriculum builder. And this book, you could give to them, and this shows them exactly how they can build their own academics using the 32 learning seminars, which is online, and the PowerPoint presentations that are presented there, as well as our 130 YouTube channel videos that support the 32 learning seminars. So the other area that we find is very popular now is in the area of e-learning. E-learning allows you to meet with people and reach into their lives through Zoom platform. The nice thing about Zoom is you can record it. You give them permission. You could take a record of that so that you could post it on your internet. So if you've covered a specific topic, it can be revisited. But this allows you to talk to people that are in urban areas or that have work schedules or that just don't feel comfortable coming. You know, the stigma of this is significant for the family members. And this is a way for them to do kind of learning in the privacy of their own home, but still under the care and guidance of the Family Solution Finder Learning Center, which is helping them to grow in their knowledge base. So in review, what we're talking about is that you would take a look at the concept. Do we want to provide a local Family Solution Finder Learning Center? Once again, it's free. It's at no cost. All of this content is free. If you're going to buy the books, you have to buy the books. I can't help you there, but I can provide the books for you as a PDF. If you'd like to take a look at them or use them, feel free to share them. If you'd like to send them around as something that you're doing here in the community, go right ahead. That's what they're there for. I don't have a copyright on them. So with that in mind, it all comes back to the 32 learning series. And then that way, when you start to set up your center using the user manual and instruct your instructor in terms of their confidence and competence in being an instructor, it's on the 32 learning Family Solution Finder Learning Series. And the courts, they can determine if they want to isolate certain topics that they want to see presented by you. You can bill on that. And then when we start to look at the community and all the stakeholders, you know what you've done? You've defended your community. This drug counts on ignorance. And if we're going to laminate over the top of everywhere that this drug goes with knowledge, we will suffocate it at its location. Ignorance is this drug's best friend. Knowledge is the hope and love and response that you can give to families and your entire community just by setting up a Family Solution Finder Learning Center. And we will show you exactly how to do that, and we will provide it to you for free, as well as be able to train your people your manager that's going to run it, and your instructor that's going to teach it. I want to thank you. And this is a blessing that you're able to give, because it was a blessing once given to me, and I give to you today freely.